Hello and thank you for joining us today at Distracted by Life. Our podcast is all about making change within yourself and your relationships. We share conversations, stories, and explore ideas coming from our lifelong journey of the high points and especially the low points where we learn to face our fears or cope with pain, loss, and failure. We do this in a discovery quest to establish patterns around our past and understanding whether we are tripping up from our past or being held hostage by it. We work on identifying ways to move forward, aligning our core values, and unlocking the keys to self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-compassion, and letting go of what is not serving you positively in life. A better you is always there, ready to explore in a new world. So let's begin. So Winston Churchill once said, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts." Too few of us concentrate on success, and too few concentrate on their failure and build their life around it. As a person thinks in their heart, so as they will become. In other words, what you believe about yourself inside is what you will become. All too often, we program ourselves around failure. I'm not going to fail. I'm not going to fail. Yet we fail as we end up concentrating on the failure more than the success. So now we ask, what's the difference between unsuccessful people and successful people? Let's unpack that question with Amal. Welcome, Amal.
Hi, Dan. Glad to be here. So, failure is not final. This is actually quite a personal topic for me, and also a lot of what I've experienced with some of my clients is that they get really stuck on failure. Very few people treat their failure as friend. Most treat them as a foe. And if you treat your failure as a foe, you will take it as a life sentence and it's final. But when you look at failure and you laugh at it in the sense that no failure is significant enough to sink a person, that life would still will go on. You admit to what you have done and what you've learned from it. Very few view failure as a moment, while some view failure as monumental. They never get around to it. And nothing comes out right the first time when you are trying something new or you are embarking on a new journey. Nothing comes right the first time. Repeated failure are actually finger posts to the road to achievement. One failure forward towards success, actually. So there is this kind of belief that everybody think, most people anyway, including myself early on, believe that when you try something new and you think of an idea, you believe like this is going to be a complete success. And you don't see that, being realistic on something that might, if you try something new, you can't guarantee necessarily it's going to be successful from the first go. So that's what the sense of actually looking at failure, in the sense that nothing comes out right the first time, and repeated failure are finger post on the road to achievement because you're discovering new things. Too many people view failure outwardly, and very few actually view failure inwardly. Failure is never an outward act. It always begins inward somehow. How the world judges failure outwardly. So if you fail on something, you want to destroy all evidence that you even started to begin with. So basically, when people try something and they don't succeed at it, they really just want to hide all evidence they even attempted to try anything because they're embarrassed and they thought they're going to succeed at something. So if I hide all my traces and tracks and everything, no one get to know that I actually tried or went down that road and I didn't succeed in it. So that really is kind of what happened when the world puts all sorts of labels on failure. But some of those failure has been the greatest successes of all time. When you look at some of the scientists and the things they try, Walt Disney was was supposed to be was told not creative and got fired, but then ended up creating Walt Disney itself, and it became a success and in the ultimate creation of entertainment. So things like that, when you look at the people who have failed drastically in their life, in their career, very famous people, but then ultimately these same very failure became their post for success later on. And so what I want to say is that failure is universal. And what we all need to understand is we all fail often and daily, and we will fail until we die.
What about expanding on that so that I have a little bit of better understanding? What does failure mean then, if that's the case?
At least from my perspective, failure means this. It means quite a lot of things for me, but I'm going to list them all here. Failure does not mean I have been disgraced, because it does not mean I dare to try. It does not mean I'm a failure, but it means I have not succeeded yet. It does not mean I'm a fool, but it means I had enough faith to try. Failure does not mean I have accomplished nothing. It does mean I have learned something. Failure does not mean I don't have it, but it does mean I have to do something in a different way. Failure does not mean I'm inferior, but it does mean I am not perfect. And this is really big for me. Failure does not mean I wasted my life, but it does mean I have an excuse to start all over again. And the reason why I list this and I highlight this specific one is that on a personal level, he probably won't like me putting him on a spot like this in a podcast, but I look at this as my brother who have took a lot of risks in his life, quite a lot. Some are actually devastating risks. And all he sees is failure, and all he sees is him being stuck at literally having gone, I guess, according to the plans that he had. And when you get yourself so consumed and stuck on the failure, you overlook all the things you accomplish along the way and the little incremental learnings that you gain from your failures. And you get so stuck in anger. You're angry at yourself, the world, the things you sacrificed to try the new things that you ended up failing because nothing went according to plan. And then you're stuck and you're forever standing still in anger. Failure does not mean I should give up, but it does mean I should try harder. Failure does not mean I will never make it, but it does mean I need more patience. Failure does not mean you have abandoned me, but it does mean you have a better idea. Failure means is keeping our ego in check and teaching us humility.
That's a big one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for this one, using my own personal experience in this one, I wrote the book Authentic Leader, and it hasn't been a success because I think what makes it not a success is that I obviously haven't seen good sales with the book, and it almost looked like why would an executive assistant would write about leadership in a book when she hasn't actually managed people or experienced being in a leadership role? What could I possibly know about the topic? And in the contrary, I actually learned by osmosis, and I learned a lot by supporting all these executives in my career. I've seen what works, what doesn't work. And I know firsthand the secrets and inner working of a leadership and how that would look like for a successful team, and the inner working of not being a good leader and how that impact negatively the team and the environment. So those are the things I write about. But that's where I was disappointed. At first, I took it really hard, but after a while, I realized, you know what? I actually dared to try to write a book about leadership. It doesn't matter whether I led people. I worked alongside high-performing executives where I got to see the inner world, the workings of a leadership in actually day-to-day basis. And I still do. And I will continue to write about it because at some point, I'm not writing about leadership because I'm writing because I'm trying to course correct people who are already failing at it, because some people are just naturally not meant to be leaders. But I wrote the book for new emerging leaders, for the millennials who are going to be the next generation, the next leaders, to learn from other people's mistakes, to follow the good path, and to acknowledge and recognize the path that would not work for them, to create a team, a cohesive team. So that's the intention of the book. Anyway, moving forward.
Well, hang on a second, Amal, because I think you're forgetting a couple important things. Number one, you're a certified coach. This is what you do. You've coached people. You also study cognitive behavioral therapy. Like, these are important things that obviously people don't know when they look at that, and they'll juxtapose, how's she going to be a leader and she's an EA, but they don't know the history. They don't know all the hard work you've done behind the scenes. The book is good. But you are right. Some people are going to think, EA, but they don't understand all of the CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, the coaching. They don't understand all that stuff behind it. So you might see it as a failure in sales. I still see it as a success in all the hard work you've done. You've put into a book. The
whole point is that at the beginning, I've seen it as a failure. I don't anymore, because I measured it by the sales, and because it hasn't sold actually the way I expected, I was disappointed. But when I reframe my thought, I still stand with my conviction. My conviction is this book is not about leaders who have been already leading for 20, 30, 40 years. Because those are going to retire, frankly. This book is about the millennials, the next generation, who's going to be the leaders of tomorrow. So this is what I'm addressing. I took real life scenarios that points out successes, communication, dynamic, the politics in the workplace, what makes a good leader, the very most common mistakes that some leaders repeatedly do over and over and over. And that's what all the book is about. Each chapter actually discuss different ways and different things about in the business world. So it is actually one of my proudest accomplishment, because the book is actually really quite good.
Yes, totally agree.
Has the world given it a chance? No, it did not.
Not yet.
Was I being labeled? Yes, because
probably.
Any leader who sees that, looks at it, she didn't even manage people and she wrote about it. What would she possibly know? I know a lot. I know about the good ones and the bad ones because I supported both.
Which is funny, because there are a lot of coaches and stuff out there that
yes.
have never led at all, but they don't. I guess they don't announce it with their position like you do. You're one of the very few who actually, this is what I do for a living, and this is what I can do for you.
True. So that's why when I say failure means is keeping our ego in check and teaching us humility, that's exactly what it is. Failure means an opportunity to meet ourselves with compassion and empathy. Failure means being the unpopular person in the room, standing in the arena alone, trusting yourself and believing in your conviction when no one else is believing in your ideas, plans, or work. When I look at failure, I really do see, not just in my own life and the example I shared with my brother, but there are also my clients who I work with, and they can't get past it. The reason why they come to me, because they can't get past the failure. So that's what we work on, and we unpack that step by step, and we reframe. And you gotta ask yourself these questions, and you gotta reflect. You gotta take yourself in a self-inquiry journey, and look and say, how to allow failure to make me a better person. Why others let failure handle them, and why others let failure motivate them. Failure Failure, do you use it to build you up or derail you? How do you define success for you, not how the world defines it? So I'll tell you, this is very interesting. The last point for me is, how do you define success for you? I've always looked at my own success as how everyone else defines it for me. And what people doing the same work like me in the same space, how they're, ahead, and how I'm not, how far I am from my mark, or did I miss the mark completely, and all that. But at the end of the day, it was really hard when I realized I was going about this completely the wrong way. So at this point, I can tell you this, I was going about it the wrong way that couple of years ago, even, up to a year ago, when I actually published the book. I didn't look at it from I literally self-publish a book. I was in the process from start to finish. That's huge accomplishment. I wrote an actual book for executive assistant and for leaders. There are a lot of things I've done that count towards huge accomplishment, and I'm proud of myself. So I defined my own success. I no longer look at all the people who post, have 500-600 reviews, sold so many books, bestseller in Amazon, the best this, the best that. Guess what? I don't do that. I don't have to be a bestseller. But what is my mission and what is my success? My mission and my success is that I will use my personal story to put my experience out there, because it will help someone. And if my personal story and my experience and my failure can ease someone else's pain and struggle and motivate them, that's the whole point of my message. I'm here to be a coach because I want to ease suffering. I want to help people. I want to share all the learnings and the knowledge I have. And that's the best way to put it. I continue to work as an executive assistant because I also have a passion for that. And it also fuels the leadership aspects that I talk about in my book, in my work, and how I coach people on that, on a leadership coaching aspect. When you reframe failure, you develop realistic thoughts about failure. There is a fact that I want to share, that in 2016, a review published in Clinical Psychology of 46 studies examining reactions to failure found that more positive attributional style was a strong factor in how resilient people were to the emotional distress caused by failure. In other words, seeing the failure as a result of something specific and external rather than something internal, that in failure doesn't define a person, doesn't sink a person, doesn't become who you are. It's not your identity. When you find yourself thinking that you are a hopeless cause, or that there is no use in trying again, reframe the thoughts. Remind yourself of more realistic thoughts about failure. Ask yourself, failure is a sign that I'm challenging myself to do something difficult. I can handle failure. I can learn from failure. There are things things that we should consider when we look at failure. While we can practice cognitive reframing on our own, it requires time and effort and patience. And frankly, it might be even challenging to be honest with yourself and spot the negative thought patterns that are getting in your way on your own. When you know what to look out for, it becomes easier, because some common cognitive distortion and tendencies and patterns of thinking and behaving that can cause the negative thought pattern include all or nothing thinking, seeing the situation in an absolute terms, blaming, attributing complex problems to a single cause, that, rather than you see it for what it is and you actually attributing this one problem that it's to a single cause and it become everything. That's it. It's final. Catastrophizing. Always imagining the worst thing that can happen in any situation. Discounting the positive, and this is what I spoke about earlier, is that you don't look at the positive things. So you look at the book sales tank, but I didn't look at the fact that I actually dare to put myself out there and share my knowledge. It doesn't matter whether I sold it or the sales were successful. So discounting the positive, ignoring or discounting the good things that happen to you. Mental filters, we all have them. Focusing only on the negative and never on the positive. It takes us back again. It's connected with the discounting the positive. When we put our negative filters, we actually get so blinded because we have this negativity bias in our brain to begin with. And so our baseline is always negative. That's the first go-to. So the mental filter we have will not really acknowledge the steps that we took to get there. Yes, the destination wasn't a success. What about each step you took that got you there? As an example, I don't like to listen to my voice. It took me a while to get to the podcasting stuff, and I'm doing it. I don't like to be on videos. I just don't. It's not my thing. But now I'm putting myself out there to be out of my discomfort, to put myself to being in videos. I wrote books that I wasn't sure how it's going to be interpreted, but I put them out there anyway. All of these steps that I took does matter, regardless of what the sales looks. The statement we make, like the shoulds statement, always feeling like you have failed to live up to the expectation of what you should do in a situation. Exactly that. Again, we all have it. We're always starting with we should, we could, we should. But whose expectation are we following? Again, are we defining our own success? Are we obsessing with what the world around us, how defines success for us? The expectation of our family members, the people we work with. What is success for you? Define that for yourself. Ask yourself what you can learn. Failure can be a great teacher if you're open to learning. Did you make a mistake? Did you make a whole series of mistakes? Think about what you could do differently next time. Then you will ensure your failure has become a life lesson then that helped you learn something. Instead of seeing a failure as a burden and weighing you down, look at it as a stepping stone towards your goals. They're always a stepping stone towards your goals because it gives you the opportunity to try something different and try harder. Create a plan for moving forward. If you want to deal and cope with a failure, you reframe your thought. You ask yourself how you can learn from it. Create a plan to move forward. Once you identify your mistakes and where you can learn from them, you will become ready to create a plan to move forward. Remember that actually dwelling on your problem or rehashing your mistake will keep you stuck. You'll just stay stuck because that's all you're doing. You're dwelling and rehashing on the problem. And I am a failure. I can't believe this. I'm not going to try again. This didn't work out the first time. Why would it work the next time round? Stop thinking I'm a failure and focus on thinking I am capable of trying again. With your new learnings, think about what you will do different next time. And create the plan that will help you put the information you gain into practice. Because you sure did learn from that failure. 100%, I guarantee you, if you really look hard. Then what does creating a plan look like? You know, when you do decide to create a plan to move forward, what does that look like for you? Look at what's not working. Assess your values. What's important to you and what you hope to maintain in your life. What do you value? Look at the future. Looking at your values and thinking about how you want the next few months, year, or even 5 years from now to be. Even Even you can look as far as 10 years from now if you want to. And then working backwards can really clarify what next steps will bring you a payoff. Plan your steps. Eliminate roadblocks. When you look at what's not working and you assess your values, because I tell you something, if you create a plan to move forward to please someone, or to also a plan that looks good because the world said so, you're not going to succeed. You actually have to align your moving forward plan based on your values. Because if you value life, a healthy life, you know that you don't like the way you feel or the way you look, or because you're ill and you want to move to create a plan to help you feel better and find joy in life. It's all about what you value and what you care for, not what someone else tells you this is the right way to go. You will succeed when you align that with your value. But when you create a plan and because you want to make it look like the perfect plan for everyone else, you guaranteed to fail again. So take your time in assessing your values and creating that plan. And when you look into the future, truly envision and see yourself succeeding at what that plan look like, and take those little small steps towards that plan. Because at the end of the day, it's the steps that you're taking in your path that matter the most. Those what I call incremental, invisible successes that no one sees because they're not obvious, but they add to a lot at the end. And then as you envision that plan and you create that plan, think about eliminating the roadblocks. What are these roadblocks that you know that it will come in your way, and how you're going to handle them? List them. What are these? How are you going to deal with them? Set up structures. Because if you don't, you create a plan and you go, to see what's, the plan looks like, here's what's not working, here's my value, here's how I see myself in the next few months. These are the steps I'm going to take. These are the roadblocks that I have, and this is how I'm going to eliminate them. Then you don't set a structure. Then you're not going to win. Now you're setting yourself for failure. You're doing it you're sabotaging your work, your plan. You have to set a structure. If a structure means you're going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning because you want to do 1 hour meditation before you start your work, that is the structure, and you have to stick with it. If you want to reap, you got to sow seeds where you're going to reap this. At the end, you gain you see the success in your life. Structure help you to get there. And get ongoing support. Ask yourself what resources you need to help you stick to the plan. What can you get? Where can you get these resources in your life to help you stick to the plan? Is these resources are internal resources that you have to build over time? Resilience, meditation, mindfulness? Or are they people who are your fan, who wants to see you succeed, not envious of your successes, people who will encourage you and support you and build you up, not tear you apart? Is it you're stuck in failure that you can't deal with it anymore? Okay, so get therapy. Work on cognitive behavior therapy, because it helps you to reframe those negative thoughts and get you out of this stuck situation. At the end of the day, my final thoughts on this: check in with yourself on a regular basis to be sure that you're sticking to that path you set out with intention. And if you find yourself letting go of some of what you value, gently guide yourself back to a place of putting what you value most into action in your life with compassion and non-judgmental. Because the moment you allow the judgment because you relapse, the moment you allow no compassion for the mistakes that you see so clearly, you will not get past your failure. Whether the plan was to lose weight and you did and you gained the weight back, you're going to continue to beat yourself up. And when you beat yourself up, it's the vicious cycle. You're going to go eat more. You're going to sink more. You're going to get stuck more. You're going to beat. You're beating a dead dog. But you made a mistake. You acknowledge you relapse. You're human. Allow your humanness to be. It's universal. Failure is universal. Meet yourself with that compassion and humility and non-judgment, and go back. Pick up yourself up slowly, one step at a time, 1 foot forward. Not a marathon. Like you're not running a race and you're chasing everyone. You have to do it one step at a time.
I think you mean it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Sprint, yes.
Yeah.
And once you understand that when you let go, if you let go of you and you find yourself back again to what you value and guide yourself back to that place, putting what you value most into action, that's how you make changes last. Because you actually have to go into with the expectation you're not going to get it right from the first time. You should tell yourself that. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a setback. I'm going to figure out what I learned, what I gained from that setback. I'm going to get back up and try again. It brings us to failure does not mean I don't have it yet, but I have an excuse and chance to try again. Thank you for joining me today on Distracted by Life podcast. Remember, failure is not final, but rather an open landscape for co-creating and exploring doing things in different ways. Until next time, you make the journey worthwhile, and it's good to be in conversation with you. Back to you, Dan.
Thanks, Amal, and thank you all very much for joining us here at Distracted by Life. My personal takeaway, failure is not fatal, exactly in the title. And I know that I can handle it, and I can learn from it. If you're interested in learning more, check out our other podcasts, of course, or hop online to Amal's website at amalcandido.com, where she talks about her coaching world, covering life, leadership, mindfulness, including links to other popular podcasts and to her books as well. With that said, stay tuned for our next episode. And from Amal and myself, thanks again, and talk to you soon.